Hey, what's up guys? Jason Julius here. In this video, let's talk about giving your woman amazing orgasms during intercourse and being able to do it consistently. You know, I get messages from guys sometimes wondering like, well, hey Jason, I know about the G spot or the A spot and how to give her awesome oral sex and all these different things. It's like, what are the tips for actually giving her an orgasm during intercourse? And I think that's an important question. I think this video will actually give you a really important distinction to make sure that you're really consistent at giving her orgasms every time, because let's face it, most women are not orgasming at all during intercourse, you know, let alone consistently. So let's talk about what the bigger picture is. So, you know, when we talk about a woman's G spot or her A spot, there's an opportunity to stimulate that spot directly using our fingers. And our finger is going to be able to directly stimulate it in a way that our penis cannot. There's actually a ton of different ways you can stimulate the G spot, a ton of different ways to stimulate her A spot. And you cannot do that with the straight in and out motion of sex itself. And the reason that I bring this up is oftentimes when you're starting out and you're trying to give her an orgasm, one of the best ways you can do it is give her an orgasm before sex begins. One, because you can really, you know, step on the gas, so to speak, by, you know, stimulating her in a way more intense way, a very direct way. But also, we have to, you know, quantify that her mind is the biggest part of getting her to orgasm as well. So we want to understand, what is her pattern for orgasm? Every woman is actually really different. Some women don't even, you know, respond to G-spot stimulation. Some of them, you know, require A-spot stimulation only, or, you know, maybe a lot of women, you know, are used to clitoral stimulation. So starting with her clitoris first and then moving into G-spot stimulation works. We need to figure out what her pattern is, right? And then we also need to figure out her mind, the pattern of her mind, to get her very present, because that thinking part of her brain needs to quiet down. She needs to get out of her own way to be able to really let go. And when you can, you know, help her get there, you're gonna see magical in bed. You're gonna see magical during intercourse. And oftentimes getting to the orgasmic state is what actually makes the biggest difference. So if you get her there before sex begins, then she's already gonna be very orgasmic, and just sex alone will give her more orgasms. Now this is starting out, it's figuring out the pattern of what makes her orgasm, what gets her highly turned on, and most importantly, the thing that's overlooked is what is hitting the brakes and keeping her from getting to the mental state that she needs to get into. When we figure out this pattern, and then we, you know, give her these orgasms consistently, you know, not long down the road, a couple weeks, a month, it really might only take just intercourse alone in order to give her an orgasm. Or if you really just dial in the mindset stuff, you know, giving her, you know, just sex alone, you'll seem like you have a magical cock when you're inside of her, because she'll be having tons of orgasms and she might not even know why, but it's how much you've done ahead of time to really understand her own pattern of orgasm. And so much of that is her mental state. She needs to be able to be really present and get outside of her mind. We oftentimes think of like, just, you know, if we stimulate the G-spot, she should just orgasm or not. But that's really not actually looking at the whole picture at all. She's a human being. It's not like you put in some computer code and, you know, tap into her A-spot and magically she has an orgasm. She's emotional. She, you know, it has emotions that may interfere with her getting into the present, just like any of us do. You know, if you go on stage, you're in a place where you feel maybe even uncomfortable, you have emotions that creep up. Now this is sex and you're being intimate. Now that might not be as scary as going up on stage and talking, but for her, when she needs to become very vulnerable, that can be very scary. So oftentimes, you know, women aren't even getting enough gas, so to speak, you know, to push them towards the orgasm, that being stimulation of the, you know, sensitive areas, her G-spot, her clitoris, her A-spot. Most of them aren't getting enough of that. Then on top of that, women, you know, experience desire differently, typically, than men. Not all women, but most women experience responsive desire, which means that she needs a little bit more time to get into the fantasy. So we need to also address the fact that, you know, we need to build up the fantasy. And then she also really wants you to take the masculine lead. And, you know, all those things really push on the gas. But what we don't really realize is it's not that she needs more gas sometimes, it's actually that she has the brakes on a little bit too much. So when we understand her pattern for orgasm, we need to understand how to get her out of her own mind. And any person's state is just a pattern of three things: your physiology, what you're focused on, and the meaning of the situation. And when we take that, vantage point and we look at her throughout the sexual experience, say you're stimulating her G-spot, you might notice that she really starts to tense up once she gets closer to orgasm. And one of the things that interferes with her mental state is actually her physical body tensing up, which she needs to actually, keep relaxed. And you can address this by physically moving her and actually helping her relax, giving her a massage beforehand, and, blending that into intercourse or stimulation. All these types of things break her physiology from, tensing up and getting to a more relaxed state. Sometimes just actually helping her control her breathing can actually make her relax. But then, what is she focusing on and what is the meaning of the situation? Well, we have a huge influence over this as well. And if we're just, narrowly looking at how do I stimulate her G-spot and, oh, I did that and it didn't work, we're not really addressing that so much more is going on there with her mental state that we really have, from an outside perspective, we have this, overhead view where we can say, oh, okay, well, she's really interrupting her own self from having an orgasm. Well, we can help her get out of that by really pulling her into the fantasy, distracting her from her own thoughts that are coming up, because sometimes she gets there and it emotionally she has a hard time really letting go. And sometimes women don't think their G-spot works, but a lot of it is that mental state piece. It's really hard for the prefrontal cortex to quiet down and for her to get completely uninhibited. I think it's really difficult for all of us, but that's so important for female orgasms. So if we're taking the time to do all this stuff and understand her pattern of what she likes stimulation-wise, really getting her into the fantasy, leading her, really pushing on the gas, but also understanding and being, conscious of and empathetic to the fact that she's a human being and she might be putting on the brakes. And that is a very, very, very common sticking point, if you will, for women who have a difficult time regularly getting to orgasm during intercourse. It's not that they need more gas, it's that the brakes are on a little bit too hard. Maybe she doesn't trust and respect her partner, and he needs to demonstrate through his actions that she can. Maybe she's not getting highly enough turned on, which would be not enough, gas. But, maybe she's just self-conscious. Maybe she's experienced trauma in her past, that is difficult for her to let go. So understand that we can distract her mind from those things. And this is getting a little bit too deep into like the overall of the mental state and how to stimulate her. But if you take the time to understand all these things beforehand, well, then intercourse, orgasms just happen, right? So you give her an orgasm before sex begins. And this doesn't take long. It's just understanding that you can very quickly shift a person's state by shifting their physiology, what they're focusing on, and the meaning of the situation. And you can really create an empowering sexual situation versus the same boring, shitty sex that, routine that, she's used to. You stand out, and to her, she's going to be very pulled into your masculinity, your taking the lead, you being dominant, you using dirty talk, you pulling her mind into the moment. And then this combination of things just happen, and then the orgasm just happens. And once she gets to that mental state, it's very easy to stay there versus getting there, right? So she may have a tough time getting to that state at first, but then you get her there, and then she'll have an easier time staying there so that she can orgasm once sex begins. And after, a month of doing that, like I said, you might just be able to jump right into sex and she might orgasm within 2 minutes. And she might be a woman who has never orgasmed in her life. And it's the understanding of the bigger picture, addressing the mental side of orgasms, which is a bigger piece than the physical, and also knowing how to touch her. Again, just it's very shallow thinking to think that like her A spot's not working because you're stimulating and she's not having an orgasm. You're not treating the whole person. You're actually just thinking that she's a push button computer that just has a place to orgasm. So when you understand that, you can see that like things out there in popular culture that talk about, having all these different sex positions, that is really also another short-sighted way of seeing it, where it doesn't matter how much you twist up your bodies together. If she can't get present to the moment, if she's not captivated by you, if she's not really into the fantasy of being with you, and if she can't let up on the brakes, which is very important, she's not gonna be able to orgasm whatever positions you put yourself in. And so that's the bigger picture that I want to share with you, is that understanding how to stimulate her, bring her mind to the present, is so important for getting her to orgasm during intercourse. Taking a little bit of time to do that before sex begins, particularly in the beginning, will set the whole sexual relationship up so that you can give her orgasms no matter what position you're in. Yes, it's important to understand how to aim the head of your penis toward her G-spot or her A-spot. That can really help. Knowing how to stimulate her clitoris during intercourse can help, and I've already made videos about that stuff. But understanding the bigger picture, that her mind and body needs to be involved, then it's almost like magic. Like I said, you're gonna seem like you have a magic cock, but what may not be obvious even to her is it's the entire thing. It's everything you did ahead of time, texting her throughout the day, getting her highly turned on, bringing her into the present moment, how you act as a man, and demonstrating your masculinity, being dominant, using dirty talk, all those things, they all kind of come together to create this experience where then you seem magical in the bedroom. But it's all of that together, not just a magical sex position, not just a certain way of touching her, but a way of stimulating both her body and her mind. So I hope that helps you understand the better way of thinking about giving women orgasms during intercourse is just to really see the bigger picture. And then it can be so much more fun and such a great exploration of getting to know her and what she responds to, what her mental state is. Some women fly right into orgasmic state. Some take a little bit of time, sometimes giving her a massage ahead of time. Just really understanding that, that whole picture needs to be there. And then her pattern to get to orgasm. And then you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, like give her orgasms without even touching her. That's how powerful the mental state is. You can sometimes get to the point where there's no touch at all. You can give her orgasms over the phone, that kind of stuff. That is the power of understanding her mental state and how much that ties into giving her orgasms during intercourse. So I hope you like this video. If you want more content from me, make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. It's probably the best place to ask me is in the comments down here below. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next video.